All right. And usually what'll happen too is people will join these things while they're in progress. We're just hanging out and having a nice time together. So I want to welcome everybody who has made the time to be here this evening. I'm really excited to be here with you all. Brian, Kai, Rob, excited to connect with you, Ariel, Tammy, Mark. Nice to see some familiar faces, and we've got some new people here. So this is the North America Ringing Cedars community call. The intention of this pretty much is just to have a relaxed, informal way of connecting and meeting each other. A lot of really awesome relationships have formed through these calls over the time that they've been hosted, and it's been really really nice. Met a lot of people, a lot of my current team I've met through these calls, and it's kind of a wonderful thing. So yeah, I just want everybody to have the chance to connect, to discuss ideas and things that may be interesting to them, and have a chance to meet other Ringing Cedars readers. It's a lot of us have never really even had the pleasure of meeting another reader in real life. I remember back when I was in that position myself, almost 10 years ago, and how badly I wanted to meet someone, and it would have been really cool to have something like this back then. So yeah, just everybody, I trust for you will be respectful and kind and let everybody speak. We got a bit of a smaller group today, so everybody will probably get to speak a bit more if they would like to. And I'm expecting this to be around an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Relaxed, casual discussion, Ringing Cedars based. And I'd love to see where you guys are all at, if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat, just to see where everybody's coming from. Because sometimes we get people from Europe and we get all kinds of things. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and I'd love to see where you guys are at. We've got Michigan in the house today. I think, who else do we got? Where is everybody at tonight? Wisconsin. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Santa Fe, New Mexico, out in the beautiful desert over there. One time I went to New Mexico, I was like in Albuquerque, and it was my first time being in a desert like that, and it's just so just quiet. I was like, huh. I'm in the middle of a city, but it's like I can hear a pin drop. Um, Sunshine Coast near Vancouver, very cool. If you haven't met, um, I don't know how close that is to Vancouver Island. I don't know anything about my Canadian geography is awful. If you haven't met or connected with Ariane and Stefan, I would highly suggest that. She's amazing. Brian from Hawaii, it's good to see you, brother. It's been a while. Really nice to have you. Very good to see you, brother. Yeah, Southern California. I think we're doing a Northern California meetup this month or next month. That should be exciting. And hopefully a Southern California one, July 23rd. I'm going to be doing one here in Asheville. So that should be pretty good. Okay. Well, nice to see all these different locations. I really love it. Few faces here I recognize. Few faces here are new and new people that I'd love to get to know. So I like to start these calls off with a little bit of time for everybody to introduce themselves. I'm Gabriel, founder and executive director of the Anastasia Foundation. Just trying to bring together Ringing Cedars readers all across the world, connect and help people in any way that we can. So this is my one of my ways of doing that. And you guys probably know me to some degree, but I won't presume. Um, and oh, if you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about maybe how you found the Ringing Cedars books or something related to the Ringing Cedars that's inspiring you or on your mind or on your heart, or if you have any questions or ideas for the group, this will just turn into a bit of a free discussion here, and we can just relax and have a good time. So would anybody want to volunteer and just like say hi to the group and introduce themselves at first? Anybody? We don't bite. Everybody's friendly here. I know a few of you guys. Um, would
I
it be
can start.
nice somebody wants to volunteer real quick? Okay, cool. How do I pronounce your name? Is it Beta? Is that the way to say
My
it?
name is Beata. Beata.
Beata. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm from
Wonderful.
Latvia.
Welcome, Beata.
Thank you. So I grew up in Latvia and yeah, very close to well, basically a lot of time in my childhood I spent in nature. And so it was interesting when I came um, to this continent and moved to Bowen Island, actually came to visit friends on a small island off Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Somebody told me,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, look, there is Anastasia walking right here. Have you read her books?" I said, "No." And so they gave me, I think, number three book to read. And it just really felt very much at home. And I felt like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's all seems very familiar. It's so simple to connect and so easy to remember. So
Mm-hmm.
I I never read the books in English because it doesn't make sense to me. My first language is Russian, so I did read few in Russian,
Mm-hmm.
but way, way, way back. So then I went into the journey of raising children
Interesting.
and hardly reading anything but all my professional literature. And so I'm very curious to see what it's like to reconnect with, you know, at this point of my journey, how that speaks to me.
Mm.
Because sometimes I just listen to Megre talk in Russian again, some of the things I just get to see some
Uh-huh.
of the gatherings and singing on YouTube. And it's just so sweet and so beautiful.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, I met Ariane and Stefan. A few
Okay.
years ago, we connected regularly every week, but it wasn't so much around Ringing Cedars. It was around just community and inner journey. So yeah, I have been missing them a lot and just reconnected recently again with Ariane. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's me.
Amazing. I
It
just talked
must
with
be.
her a couple hours ago before this call, by the way. Yeah, I'll tell her that you were here, and I'm sure she'll be happy. And so interesting to hear your story. It's very cool that it's such a privilege and blessing to get to read, understand Russian, and to hear Megre talking, and to know what he's saying. And I think it's really cool. So
Yeah,
glad to have you, and thanks for sharing, and excited to hear more.
thank you.
Brian?
I was just going to say that must be really nice to be able to read the stories in Russian and understand that language. Because as wonderful as the books are in English, I still feel that there's probably things that get lost in translation. And, I mean, we've seen that with multiple versions of the translation, and I've read from the different ones, and even though, it's very similar,
Mm-hmm.
and you get the same sort of vibration from it, I can only imagine, it's even more special in Russian, and I do not have that language background. So, yeah, I'm always appreciative of, those who do. And Gabriel, you have learned quite a bit of Russian. How is that for you
Yeah.
as, Russian being a second language and learning or,
Uh,
reading some or hearing stuff like how is that for you?
yeah, it's an interesting question. My wife is Russian. So a lot of you, I don't know how much you guys know about me, but my wife is Russian, and she's taught me a fair bit of Russian, but I like to tell people that my Russian vocabulary consists of like ringing cedars words and nature words, like mostly nature words and ringing cedars words and like God words. So I have like a specialized Russian vocabulary, but it's really cool. I mean, I can like Anastasia's words and the rhythms of her words in Russian are they are really something. Like there's a like poetic rhythm to what she says in Russian that is really, really just it's like musical and wildly powerful and extremely pure. And it's really interesting. I mean, I'm not that great, but it's cool to be able to read and understand at least part of what she's saying. It's really interesting, and I can pronounce Russian relatively well. I'm always told that I don't really have an accent, which is cool. And okay, I see that Tammy has her hand up. Tammy, if you want to go, if you want to share, please take the floor.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I'd love to. You listening to the few of you talk right now may have answered something I've been so curious about since I came across you all with the books. My
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, two of my four grandparents were Russian, and they never talked about their immigration here. They never talked about the past. So when I came across the Anastasia books, I felt a deep familiarity in a haunting way. And yet it wasn't totally ringing me the way it should have. So, Gabriel, you may have just given me the realization. I'm wondering if my
Hmm.
Russian grandmother might have had the books. Like, in other words, I always felt like, well, maybe I knew it through osmosis, through out of body consciousness. It was so familiar to me, and yet something was missing.
Hmm.
As well as with the artwork, I'm always, every time I see your artwork, it's maybe my favorite that I know of. And every time I
Me
see
too.
it, yeah, it just really does something for me. Every time I see it, I look to find the origin of how or where it's so familiar to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you've got Russian blood and you're attracted to the Ringing Cedars, then you're definitely I don't know how much of the series that you read, but you must certainly be one of the Vedrus people that Anastasia describes in the sixth book, and she describes that this Vedrus civilization is waking up again in our present age. And here you are, and here we all are, just waking each other back up and being present with each other here. So I'm sure it's deep down there in your genes, and it's just resonating and coming out, especially with real Russian lineage. There's definitely got to be something there.
Mm. I'm gonna listen. I just love the energy on your calls. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you. And we can keep going around and with some introductions, or if Tammy, if you want to say a little more about yourself, and maybe we can go a bit more around the group.
Well, if it's okay, I feel complete right now with what I shared,
Okay,
and I'd love to
absolutely.
have a chance
That sounds
later.
good.
I will mention, Gabriel, I'm gonna stay as long as I'm able to, in case.
Great.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome. And is this Elizabeth uh like my Elizabeth, or do is this a new Elizabeth that I don't know? Is this Elizabeth? We may have multiple who just joined a little while ago. Or maybe Elizabeth is not available at the moment. That's fine. Okay. So if we want to go around, does anybody else want to say a word to the group? Maybe Kai or Rob, Jake, Brian, anyone? Brian?
I will continue. Yeah, I just wanted to um, share that with that reflection with Beata before. But yeah, it's this, it is over 10 years now since I found the books, and so that's a pretty fun I guess milestone that I'm realizing at the moment. So that's really cool.
Hmm.
And yeah, just growing, just had learned so much, and realizing so much with reading that, and of course, over the years, going back to it, and reading here and there, and I remember the first time reading through the books, and we were just like, it's so wonderful, all of these, when Anastasia is speaking, um,
Mm.
and everything that she is sharing, and then some parts it was like, wow, Vladimir's a little rough around the edges, and just at some point it was like, wow, this is I mean, it was great to read and appreciate from the fact of going through the process with him as he was going through his
Right.
process of learning and all of that, which was really great. But I also realized, like, I haven't gone back to read the books from cover to cover, because one wonderful thing that my wife had done, my beloved, had gone through and sort of taken all of the, like, Anastasia quotes and, like, all of that pertinent
Hmm.
information, and, like, created a document based on that. And so that's what we usually go back and read. It's just like all the juicy nuggets of wisdom, and consult that from there. But recently I was like, I should just go back and read them again, cover to cover, and this and that. And especially because we bought our home and property, which is our kin's domain, and we did this
Yeah.
over 4 years ago now, and just doing living the life as best we can, and incorporating as many of the teachings into what we're doing here, and how we're building our life. And it's just been really wonderful. So that's
Mm.
a little bit of my story.
I love it, brother. I know you've got a beautiful piece of land out there in Hawaii. I've seen some pictures before. It's really blessed to see what you guys are creating out there. And yeah, excited to hear about you going through the books again, doing the whole journey. I'd love to see if anybody else here has done the same. I've done a lot of, like, um just pick up a random book, and I've reread all the books like a bunch of times, but, like, I'll just pick up book 7 and then just devour book 7. Or I haven't done many series readings of the series, and I'd be curious if anybody else here has done that. But really nice to hear. Okay, Rob, nice to see you, brother. I know we haven't had the chance to. Well, now we have a bit more of a chance to connect. We've done a bit of emailing. It's nice to see you, brother. You're muted, by the way, Rob. If you're trying, it looks like you're trying to speak. Yikes. It's somewhere probably on the bottom left, the little microphone button on the phone. Something like that. The little menu bar there on Zoom. You can take your time. Maybe can I unmute you? Nope, I can't do it. I wish I could. I don't have that type of power here. But
Well,
yeah, Jake, please.
okay. Well, I
Welcome.
thank you. First time I've been involved in this here. I started reading the books about probably 12 years ago. I read them twice or more, and so I've been fascinated by them. And I've told some of my friends about it, and we're thinking about starting a book club where to talk about the different ideas. I've been very
Wonderful.
by the breadth of Anastasia's thinking and her grasp of history, and that has been largely hidden from us as we know. And anyway, it's been a very fascinating, life-changing kind of series of books to read. So I have my late wife, she died about 6 years ago. We had a 6-acre property, which was actually a good size for the kind of domain she's talking about. But since I don't have her, it's kind of more difficult to go on with it. But I do have a few animals, chickens and things in the garden and so on. But it's not at all developed in the way she's talking about. But still, it's a great vision for all the world, really, to reorganize the way we have built our communities and live our lives, just to think from a point of view of nature and being involved in that. And I think we all have a lot to do in that regard. So I certainly do. So anyway, it was just good to see other people here also interested in this vision. So that's all I'll say for now.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. So glad you found us. Have you met other readers before? Or is this your first time connecting with anyone in the community?
I have just people in my area here that I've spoken to, but not from the online community. This is the first time.
Okay. Got you. Awesome. Very glad you found us. Thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you.
I figured it out.
There you go. I love it.
It took me a minute. First time I done Zoom on my cell phone.
Gotcha. I understand.
I appreciate being here. I'm a newbie, so I just was introduced to the Ringing Cedars books just a couple months ago. I've actually made it through the first two. It's kind of hard for me to take the time, but I have been taking the time to read and it'd be nice. I wish you don't know of any audio books out there, do you? There's one girl that done,
except the free ones on YouTube. Yeah, there isn't any official ones.
It's kind of hard to listen to some of the people that have done them, even though I appreciate them doing them. But
I've heard.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I live on a king's domain. It's like when I started reading the books, and I was like, it's kind of unbelievable that it's kind of like a vision before I knew about it. And it's a little bigger. And a few of my friends, we're connected kind of like a king's domain would be, except it's not really a king's domain. We've all got more than 2.5 acres of property, and a couple people got 50 acres. But we got ponds, we got our animals, we got our food. We're all, kind of work. I'd say it more or less of a prepper community than anything. But when I found out about, the Ringing Cedar books, it blew my mind that we were already kind of doing similar to, what the books talk about. And I do have a vision to be involved in something like a real Ringing Cedars community. So appreciate being here.
That's amazing, brother. That sentiment of it, it was like a vision of kind of something you were already doing, or I hear from a lot of people, it's like a clarification of something that they already wanted. The idea of the kin's domain and the settlement. It's like, oh, I wanted to live in nature, or I wanted to do this, but then they encounter the idea and they're like, oh no, that's it, but like in much more detail, that idea. Awesome. Glad to have you here, brother. And where are you located, by the way? Am I crazy, or are you in Florida?
I'm in mid Michigan. You still talking to me?
Michigan. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mid
yeah. I
Michigan,
was talking to you. Yep.
Lower
Gotcha.
Peninsula.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's right
Awesome.
in the scratch of the thumb almost. So
Interesting.
yeah, and we have. I think I sent you a video of a property I was trying to purchase up in the UP, which was it consisted
Yep.
of 2 mountains, and it was 1,100 acres. And it just
Yep.
my partner ended up passing away accidentally 2 months before we closed, and he was a doctor, and he was my
Oh
partner and
wow.
my
God bless.
backer and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, I fell out of contract with it after that happened. But so I had a similar vision of kind of like I said, I didn't know about the Kins domain, but it was going to be more like each person had a piece of property, and sit really close to what the Ringing Cedars books have. And obviously every type of demographic is going to be a little bit different, I imagine, like depending on what your property is
Right.
like, or if you're in the mountain area, if you're in flatlands or what have you. So I had a lot of questions about
Yep.
that too, like when purchasing property, because it wouldn't be prime to purchase a bunch of farmland that's been already chemicals all over it for years and years and years. To find
Yep.
like a more virgin property is gonna be a key, to a good Kins domain.
Right. Right. And just real quick for the group, because I've got a friend who's got a very interesting story on that subject. One of my friends, in Mark Angelo in Quebec, Canada, has a piece of land called Valhalla Farms. And originally the story is really interesting because it's not like a settlement or anything like that. It's not Ringing Cedars. But it's a bit of a beautiful little permaculture farm, and they do all kinds of wonderful things. But he actually bought it as it was just previously like some type of conventional farmland. I don't know exactly what they were growing, but he wound up doing like a whole bunch of soil remediation, like planting all these plants to clean the soil, and wound up just building like a beautiful, thriving, kind of oasis on something that was previously kind of condemned. I hadn't seen many, stories like that. It was kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if that's a play for anybody out there in the future, but it was just an interesting thing to see. And Rob, I'd love to connect with you more. I haven't been able to get back to my emails in the most timely manner, so I apologize about that. But there's definitely some interesting things to discuss there. And yeah, so we can continue around the group here. So who haven't we heard from? We've got Ariel and Kai. If either of you would like to say a word to the group. Yeah, Kai, you got your hand up.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm also
Yeah.
in Quebec, but
Oh,
unfortunately,
cool. I used to live
yeah, I'm
there.
in the city, Montreal, and I'm
Okay.
just I'm getting
I lived
really
in
sick.
Val David for a couple years.
Really? Oh, okay, sweet. It's not too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I'm getting sick of the city life. It's like every
Hmm.
path I've ever taken constantly brings me back to like this, like the community building, nature, everything. And now I'm
Mm.
like living the completely opposite life, like real estate, all that stuff that pretty much sucking my soul. And I'm in a process of
Wow.
transitioning. towards learning permaculture so that I can actually acquire land. And I was looking into land grant, like crown land grants and patents.
The
And
Crown
that's,
Land Grants. Nice.
yeah.
Did you see our
So, yeah.
video about it? The interview we did?
I tried to, but I was too burnt out to like make sense of anything that was being
I
said.
hear
So
that.
yeah.
I hear
But
that. Yep.
yeah, I would love to,
Nice.
and I'm new to this, so
Yeah. Have you read the books? Or you just kind of heard about the ideas?
yeah, it's just been a like couple of weeks since I've like gotten into this.
Yep.
So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome. If you're interested in nature and community and, happy families and all these things, you definitely found the right place. That's for sure.
thank
And and if you want to get into the books, I'll just share a link, and this is probably handy for everybody to have. Anastasia.foundation/books. That'll take you to the little folder I put together of all the books in PDF form. And you can print them out yourself, like $25 a pop, pretty affordable. Or there's a website where you can get them as well. You can get, they don't have all the books, but you can get them here, ringingcedarsbooks.com, if you prefer to like not print them yourself.
Yeah.
But that's pretty nice. So, and the prices are good. And yeah, actually, it's funny that I mentioned that little story about my buddy Mark. You should check out, if you're interested in like permaculture and community. Mark has built some really interesting things there. If you look, Valhalla Farms, it's not far outside of Montreal. If you ever want to take like a nice
I'm on
little
the
weekend trip to a beautiful, yeah, yeah. So yeah, he'll remember me if you go there and you get to meet him. Just tell him it's Gabriel, and he's an awesome guy, and they've got some beautiful things going on up there. And I think he's kind of familiar with the Ringing Cedars. I don't know how much he's read, but he has heard of the books. So that would be a nice weekend trip over there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and actually, when I lived in Val David for it's a really obscure little town. I don't expect any of you guys to know it unless you live in Canada. But it's a beautiful little resort, like tourist town, about an hour and a half north of Montreal, up in the Laurentian mountains up there. And a lot of very, the spiritual land types living up there. Actually, when I went to the library up there, the little public library, tiny little library, they had the whole Cedars set in French, believe it or not. And there was a couple of people I had met in the town who were readers, and I was trying to organize some community up there, but I didn't have the time. So if you pop in their Facebook group and stuff, and you mention Ringing Cedars, they got a Facebook group for the town, you'll definitely find a bunch of people. I found a bunch of people up there. So it's like a little town. It's like 5,000 people living there, but they are really like spiritually kind of aware. Take a little weekend trip up there too. You probably have a great time. Yeah, I lived in Quebec for 3.5 years. Yep. Awesome. Glad to have you. Very cool. Very cool. And I think the last person is Ariel. I don't know if we've ever connected before, but welcome. Glad to have you here from Wisconsin.
Yeah, thank you. This is my first interaction with the community. I've been in the Telegram group for a while. I first learned of the books maybe 10 years ago, but I
Nice.
didn't start them until this week. And I'm into
Wow,
book
look at that.
2. I'm into book 2 right now. I'm doing the I decided I just need to access the information. I have very little time to read right now, so I'm listening to the gal on YouTube who's reading them, and yeah, it's a little difficult to listen sometimes, but I am grateful because I have a very long commute, so that's what I've been doing on my commute. And I also realized I wouldn't really have been ready for the information until now. So I first came across the books 10 years ago, and then what reignited, that reignited in me, like, oh, those books are there, I've been wanting to read them, was that I was actually in the last 6 months or so, I was in a women's healing group with Janice Barcelo. and she came on,
Mhm.
you know, for one of the community calls during the Q&A, and she mentioned the work that she did, and she mentioned the Ringing
Mhm.
Cedars, and I took that as a sign, and I watched a few of her YouTube videos, and I
Mhm.
saw that you did an interview with her, which is how I learned about the Anastasia Foundation. And since I
Wow,
just
yeah.
started the books this week, I went to the website, joined the community, and got the email, you know, in my inbox for this call today. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, that's how I got here.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
10 years. And you know, that's so interesting. Like, you never know when you're ready for something. You know, even the editor of the books, when he went to edit the books, he said he got him as a gift from his mom, and she gave them to him in Russian, and then they sat on his bookshelf for like 3 years before he even touched them. He just
Oh
didn't even
wow.
give him the time of day. Like, and then he
Hmm.
winds up becoming the editor of the books, and it's like it's so interesting. That's such an interesting story.
I have a
So
lot of
yeah,
books on my
so
shelf
glad he
that are
found
like
us.
that.
Yeah, just like things going on in the background and processes going on, and then all of a sudden the bamboo shoot emerges,
Right,
and
right.
here we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. We got a couple people on book two in here. I love that. Great. And Tammy, I see you got your hand up. Feel free. And by the way, everybody who's here, feel free to just jump in whenever if you hear something, you know, we're all here. We're all here together. So anytime you guys want to jump in, feel free.
Okay. So can you remind me or tell me more about the editor with the translation? Uh, I don't know anything about the translation because I did
Hmm.
notice a couple years ago when I came across this, like I mentioned, I was drawn to it, and yet something was not totally ringing right for me, and I'm thinking it has to do with translation. So can you tell me part of your story about the books that are out now?
Um, yeah, I mean, I can share a little bit about it. So to keep it really simple, there's three editions of the books in English. There is a first edition which has like the green artistic covers on them that everybody seems to love. Then there is the second edition which has the black covers that you see here. And then there is a third edition that was published by Vladimir Megre himself and his team. And the first and second editions, they're pretty much the text is identical between books 2 and 9. Well, technically 8.2, the book is called, but it's the ninth book. The text is identical. There is no difference in any of the texts in the first and second editions. The first book was updated, the text in the second edition. So they went back and corrected some of their original little minor mistakes and updated some things. And they just decided to um, upgrade the construction of the books. If anybody has both of the books, you would see that the second edition is a much more solidly built and printed book. And they also changed the covers to be more palatable to a English speaking Western audience. So besides that, there was really no difference. The translation differences between so the first and second edition, the translation differences are pretty much non-existent, very small. The third edition was done by Vladimir's team, like I said, released in 2016 in English, so much later. And well, that those editions suffer from really poor editing, to put it frankly. They have really poorly edited, and so much so that the Russian speaking people I know, I was told that it almost looks like the book was put through Google Translate and almost printed out just from Google Translate. Apparently, it came out pretty bad. And so I almost think that, yeah, unfortunately, Vladimir um, lost money on that one. He asked me in an email. He was like, "Do you think it's do you think have you seen those editions? Do you think they're good?" And um, I was like, "Well, some people like them, but they're pretty rough. Even with editing, um, they're pretty rough. But so most people tend to prefer the first and second editions. The third edition certainly have their value. Book 10 was never printed in the first one or two editions. So I think book 10 is really good, even with the little typos and stuff. But the translation stuff I wouldn't worry too much about. It's all good. If you happen to read Russian and hey, you're lucky to read Russian, then like go for it. But some people you may want to learn Russian just to read it, or who knows, but they're quite good, the first and second editions. I hope that answered your question well.
Okay, it was informative, and I thank you.
Great. Awesome. I know Mark, you wanted to say something, if you still have something on your mind.
Oh, I just wanted to be included in the group. But I have
Oh,
a
I'm
friend.
sorry. I didn't realize that you didn't give an introduction yet. I apologize, brother. I'm just so
Not at
used to
all.
seeing you that I didn't realize. Sorry about that.
Not at all. Not at all. I have a friend acquaintance I don't communicate with very much, but every once in a long while we do. And he just dropped casually that he was reading the Ringing Cedars of Russia books, and that was like 4.5, 5 years ago. And I didn't know anything about them. He didn't tell me anything about them. But I got inspired to try to find out what they were. And so I went to online to our local library here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And according to them, they had two volume one books. And so I put in a request to hold one of them. And I waited for a month, and I waited for 2 months, and I waited for 3 months. And then finally I couldn't wait anymore. And I found out that they thought they had two books of volume one, but they had both been stolen. So I
Mm.
got interlibrary loan to find me a book, which they did pretty quickly. And I started reading them. They had most of the others. And I've been on the spiritual path since I had cancer at 18. And my spirituality came roaring back between my chemotherapy sessions. And I've had teachers and I've taught and I've, devoted quite a lot of my life to it all, but I couldn't believe what I was getting from these books, more than everything else combined by far. I was personal assistant to the Beatles guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, of the transcendental meditation technique. And I had other teachers, and a lot of my life has been devoted to this kind of stuff, but I just got more out of these books than everything else combined. And I'm only on my second read. I'm in book 6 of reading cover to cover twice. And I plan to just keep on going. And I know people who have read them 10 and 11 times, or 8 or 7 or 5 or 3 or whatever. And eventually, I plan to read them at least 5 or 6 or 7 times or more, probably. But I just love them, and maybe in this life or next, I'll find myself on a kin's domain. That's it.
That's a beautiful story, brother. That's a beautiful story. Got more out of these books than everything else combined. That's beautiful. We got Shane from Illinois joining us. That's beautiful. Yeah, you know, like, and it's interesting, man, like how penetrating Anastasia's words are on everything, and how quickly and effectively she can just has not can, well, can and has just cleared so many delusions and misconceptions on all kinds of things, just in one fell swoop. You know, it's unbelievable. You know, I remember the first time I read the books, like I was halfway through book one, you know, and I remember just taking book one in my hand, like halfway through, and I'm like, I have found everything that I'm looking for, you know, undistorted, pure truth. I couldn't even believe that I had it in my hands. I'm like, this is really, you know, there's no spiritual mysticism, mumbo jumbo. It's just the direct truth, loud and clear, no, you know, posturing or grandiose anything, no mysticism. I'm like, it's right here. I'm like, I couldn't even believe that it was in my hands. I was like, how did I get so lucky to find this? You know, that was my experience. Kai, did you just put your hand up, or was that from earlier? Did I miss it? Or you just put your hand up now? Okay, yeah, feel free.
Oh, yeah. I just had a question, since I haven't gotten super deep into it yet. If you could tell us a bit like about just how, I guess, how it comes to be to get started from nothing to get into a king's domain. Like, I know it's like a lot, but
Yeah.
just could give me an image or something. Like, I did read some excerpts, but it's not enough to really get a good picture, if you don't mind.
Yeah. If anybody else would like to speak on this question as well, you know, you're all welcome. I know Brian is experienced living on the land. Rob has land. But I can probably say a little bit to that. And I think honestly, my take on it is like once you read a little bit more, so the idea of the domain is presented in book four, like probably towards the you know 66% mark, like 2/3 mark way through book four, and getting a little bit of that feel of it on your own. It'll illustrate things a bit more and ignite the feelings that would give you the motivation to want to do that, I think, or to want to do it deeper beyond what you're already feeling, like just kind of stoke the flames. And you know, what's really interesting is that I was just talking about this with um my dear friend and colleague here in the foundation, Svetlana. Some of you may recognize from the YouTube videos and stuff, but she lives in Russia, and she has lived on a couple different settlements. She's got her family over there, and they are. She lived in Canada for 11 years, then went back to Russia, where she is now, and looking to join another settlement. She was telling me, like, you know, the way that things are developing in North America is really different than it's developed in Russia, because she's like, the challenges of getting land um, is really not a thing in Russia, because the land there is so astoundingly cheap. You can get land in relatively good areas for ridiculously low prices, generally speaking, and so it's not hard for people to come and get a lot of land and start settlements. You know, that's why there's so many of them over there, whether it's like building off of abandoned small villages, like a lot of people will do. They use like an old village as a base and then build around it, or just get a piece of land somewhere. But like in North America, the challenges are a bit different because land is more expensive. But what I've seen is that there's so many like individual domains across North America, which is kind of fascinating. Like I remember when I first got involved in things, I got involved in a community of Russian speakers and Russian natives who were living in upstate New York. And there was a whole bunch of them in upstate New York who had like read the books in Russian in like 2002 or something like that. And but they all had like individual domains all over the place, and they were all friends with each other, but there wasn't like a settlement which was fascinating. And so I don't know, like I think where we're at now, I think that people should just go out and create their space of love, and plant that flag on the earth, create a beautiful place for their family, and create a little paradise for themselves and just start to attract people to them, and I really think that our connection with our piece of land and the love that we have for it and the love that we put into it really sets the tone for everything that kind of comes after, the people who find us, the people who want to join us. I translated an article recently, and I can drop the link in here in the chat if anyone is interested. But we're going to be speaking with an incredible gentleman who's a leading member of one of the oldest settlements in Russia, and it's called Kovcheg, which means like ark. And it's more than 20 years old, several hundred hectares, many, many, many members. And he was telling me, he's like, if you walk around, he says, not telling me, he says in the article, I feel like he was talking to me, but he says in the article, if you walk around our settlement on like a nice, beautiful night, he says, you'll feel this incredible life force coming off of all the domains. But he's like, the energy you feel off of each domain is like the energy of the person who put it in there, who created it. And they're all really different. And he's like, you feel the person's personality like amplified on their land, which I find to be a really, really interesting idea, because a lot of us haven't had that experience. Like we haven't been a part of a community like that and been able to feel that. And so I don't know if this is answering your question, Kai, if any of this is useful. But that's kind of some of the things that are occurring to me, and I'd love for anybody else who has some thoughts on this to share, or hopefully that was useful.
Yeah, that's definitely
Maybe
how
that
I.
was a bit more abstract, that wasn't very practical.
Yeah, no, but like the vision is exactly how I've been feeling more and more the past years. But then to actually get technical and legal, to me, buying land makes no sense because
Yeah.
who am I buying it from? Like, makes no sense. It's first of all here in Canada, it's stolen land anyways. So who am I buying it from? And that's something it's kind of blocking me. Like I can't get past that. Like
Interesting.
if I buy it from someone, it means I'm acknowledging them as like the owner of the land. But I don't know. It's weird to me. I'm still
So
trying to get
like the
rid of it.
philosophical idea of land ownership. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still thinking about that. Like, yeah, like
Yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? It's a really interesting subject.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid thought and a valid point in all of that. And yeah, it's really difficult because there's such a system in place, and yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes it's just easier and to take the path of least resistance and go through the system and do that in order to meet your goals. And there, yeah, that's always a tough one because I've definitely felt that, and even that whole concept of land ownership, like, I don't really own this land. It's I have this, title, but it's in a made up system. It's just in this man-made system that says it. But, by going through that system, like, yeah, I have to pay taxes, and yeah, there's certain things, but I live reasonably, like, I have that freedom that I sought, by um, you know, um, through this land ownership or whatever. And it's a system that like I don't know. It's so entrenched and so in place, and people are just holding on to these systems so hard that you know, in the end, I was just like, okay, this isn't my fight. You know, I'd rather just you know, put my focus to the earth, and because the earth doesn't care, right? The earth doesn't care about these systems of ownership. I mean, it's definitely impacted by it, but you know, at its root level, um, you know, the earth, you know, doesn't really care how I got here, but it's really happy that I'm here, and really happy to be touched and in all the ways that it is, with all the care and intention. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely yeah, not trying to say anything about, you know, those beliefs that you're holding on to strongly, because you know they're valid. There's no argument against what you're saying. Um, so it's you know, it's just about you know you know, overcoming. For me, it was just overcoming that, you know, that those similar beliefs, and just saying like, you know, I just need to love the earth, and love this piece of earth, and you know, there's no system that can get between that, you know, once you play through the system. But there is like this system that's trying to, you know, that definitely can keep us apart from it, which is, you know, it's you know, it's mean. It's mean. It's a, you know, it's this evil system that's, you know, keeping people apart from the land. So you know, that's what I found. Just, you know, play this game, and you know, with whatever system is in place, and then yeah, and and then you do that right, and you're left alone to be and to commune with the earth. And that's my experience with that.
Thank you.
Rob, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do the little hand thing. I can't see the emoji anywhere in here. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
feel free to just feel free to
um,
jump in whenever you feel like.
yeah, I was gonna to add to that, we got to work with what we've got. You know, we've got to work within the system that we live in, unfortunately. And when we were purchasing that property up there, we did a lot of logistics. And I've got some Native American involvement. We had 20 acres of res property within the 12 or 1100 acres we had. So we had meetings with the LVD tribe, LVD tribe up in the UP. And then our founder, I started a chapter of the Native American Church of Turtle Island with the founder, or our founders, the Sault Ste. Marie tribe's chief. And we were contemplating on putting the property in the church name and the Native American church name. And then we were going to, like, 99-year lease, which was transferable to a family member, to whoever had property on the facility. So there's ways to work around things like taxes, and we weren't going to make it all tax free. Of course, there's profitable businesses and the resort itself that would remain paying taxes as, you know, the money system remains, I guess. But yeah, there is ways. There's logistics, especially in North America. You got to be really, you got to play their game basically, and you got to use their laws against them as far as coming after us for trying to have as much freedom as we possibly can. You know, especially in the world we're living in nowadays. So there are ways. it just, unfortunately, we gotta play by the rules, and we gotta just adjust them according to the way they work best for us. And so we may, and after this world,
Rob,
after,
oh, it
am I
was
here?
breaking up. Yeah, it was breaking up. I'll wait until
I
you.
think my battery's going low. I'm sorry. I'll hurry up and try to get
No,
it out. So if we do, we're heading towards some sort of a reset here, all of us more than likely. So I think that things are going to change as far as property lines and everything in the future. Anyhow, so I mean, usually possession is ownership. If things do hit the fan, so as long as we own some property and we have it established, we'll probably be okay. So yeah, don't give up hope. There is ways around it, and there will be opportunities, I'm sure, shortly. So
Rob, before
thanks.
your battery dies, can I ask you, Turtle Island, are you talking about Connaughty? The Elam Pomona tribe, Jim and Gail Brown Feather, Brown Eagle?
No, there's several chapters that we were founded by the chief of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe, David Gaskin, up in Sault Ste. Marie. So we're not affiliated with that particular chapter.
Okay.
We're kind of a unique chapter because David is half French Canadian. So he's half indigenous and half what they would call, Caucasian. So it opens up a lot of doors for
Yes.
people joining.
Yeah, very fortunate. A good blend, a good configuration to get more done easily. Okay. I'm able to relate to a lot of what many of you said. I on the whole topic of the Ringing Cedars and the King's Domain, I often have a sense of being like a really wise youngster who kind of gets it all, and yet is well, how do I say, haven't experienced enough formation in the outer life to take action on any of it. A little bit for all of the reasons. I think it's an inner journey. So I feel very kind of immature and yet to be developed on the inner journey that gets us to the point of living the life. Was it, excuse me, I didn't have my glasses on, so I won't say the names. The last few people, I know your faces. Yeah, I'm not there. So I like to listen and absorb other people that are, can I just say, like more there than I am experiencing so far.
Right. Yeah, right. Everybody's on their own journey. And, like Anastasia says, we don't all have to run. She, very pointedly says we don't all have to run off and live in the forest. All of us are responsible for, to some degree, the world that we've created, right? And that we've lived in and inhabited. And all of us have some kind of duty to help clean up the world that we've created. And Kai, the question that you brought up, I find really interesting too, because I've heard so many different people have so many different perspectives on the idea of like land ownership. And like fundamentally it kind of is a bit of a foreign concept. I think, like, obviously God didn't create titles to the land and and the whole real estate thing and all this, but like what occurred to me while you were speaking is that and while everybody else was speaking, is that the land is my land when I've established this connection with it. When I have my personal relationship with it and I've created a space here with my love and my spirit, I can start to say that this land is my land. But does it mean, it means I'm taking care of it it's almost if the idea of like having a child is coming into my mind, like I'm taking care of it as like a child or a loving friend or something like this. And yeah, unfortunately, in the crazy system we have to have a few pieces of paper that say this little line is the line that you can't cross, and this line defines my little piece of land. And I know you probably haven't gotten to book 4. And so I wanted to read a little excerpt of what Anastasia says. This is the first thing that she mentions about creating a kinsdomain. She says, take 1 hectare of land in that place. She says, choose a place for yourself on the earth that is the most pleasing for you um, in comparison to any other space. And she says, the climate should be suitable for you too. And that means it'll also be suitable to your grandchildren and your descendants. But she says, take 1 hectare of land in that place for yourself in perpetuity. And then she says, take advantage of the most favorable of all the existing laws. And that's a pretty interesting thing, because the most of all the existing laws, she's located in Russia when she says that. But if you map that out to us here in North America, you have things like what you're saying earlier, like the crown land grants or land patents, where you can actually really have the rights to own your land in perpetuity, you know. And I talked a lot with my dear friend Robert William from the American Meeting Group, and he works with Ron Gibson, who's pretty much like the best living American land patent expert, and he's been doing land patents for like 50 years. And they have a team of people working on land patents. They're working on like 40 to 70 of them at a time. So they really know their stuff. And what Rob told me, he said when the country was created, you know, USA, that the founding fathers and mothers, the intention of these land grants was so that the poorest farmer would not be able to be separated from his land by the bankers or anyone who would come with a predatory intention later on. And I find that to be incredibly interesting. Like that someone at some point in time, and right, there's all these different historical perspectives on the, you know, the history of the country and the intentions of people. It's a very complicated web of like karma and all these actions of who has done what. But the idea that we shouldn't be separated from our land to protect it is a very interesting thing. I own this land forever and no one can ever take it away from me. Like the land patents are signed by the president or by the authority of the president, and the crown land grants are signed by the authority of the crown. So, and they relinquish their rights to your piece of land forever. It's a fascinating idea. But then even the idea of like the native peoples who came before, how do we respect them? I think the best thing we could do, like create a living paradise and try to interact with the people who live around us in a beneficial way. Try to add value to the community, try to create something beautiful, try to invite people and work with them, you know, reaching out to the native, if there's any native people around you, or being a good example of stewardship of the land and on the earth. You know, I really think, because it's such a crazy web, you know, of things like where we find ourselves, we can only do so much. But you know, I've definitely thought about that question too. I think it's really interesting, and it's been really nice to hear what everybody has said on that subject. There's definitely a lot there. Awesome. Yeah, this is good stuff, my friends. And I know we've got Rachel here. She's on our team with the Anastasia Foundation. She's here as Rose. Very nice to see you, Rachel. We've got Willix. Nice to see you, brother. It's been a long time since I've seen you, since I've seen your face, but I know you're always around. Very nice to see you, my friend. Yeah, this is a very got a long weekend of contemplation ahead of me. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. And you know, like I forget who said that earlier. I think it was Ariel said, you know, had the books for 10 years and now am reading them. you know, and I'm actually coming up on my 10-year mark of reading the book soon, probably in November. Will be 10 years for me. And, you know, it's like the timing of things is so interesting. You know, there's people in our community who've been looking for their land for like a decade or two. You know, I read the books like 10 years ago, and I don't have a piece of land yet, but I know I will. And it's like, honestly, there's so much on each of our journeys to wherever we go, and we learn so much on each stage. You know what I mean? And I'm so grateful for what I have. And like even Vladimir Megre didn't have a piece of land for like quite a long time, like 15 years or something after writing the books, you know? And then he winds up getting a piece of land on a big settlement. Um, and even then, he wasn't immediately attentive to that land. You know, he's been developing it more now, like very recently in the last few years than he was before. Um, so we're all on these magnificent journeys that generally kind of probably have longer time horizons than we than we may initially think. You know what I mean? But there's so much beauty in each of those things. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Yeah, Kai, I see what you're saying in the comments here. Makes me feel so much better. I thought I was running out of time. Honestly, I used to feel kind of the same way. I'm like, man, I read the books 10 years ago, and I don't have a piece of land yet, this and that. And it's like, but each each little place I move to, each little step on my journey, I'm like learning more. And I feel like by the time I get to that place, and I'm ready to start, that I think I'll have been adequately prepared. You know, and maybe some people don't need so long of a preparation period. And you know, and one little thing that I noticed, because I actually went to a really big and successful settlement called, you know, Vedrusia in Krasnodar in southern Russia. Very large settlement in 2016. And I noticed that some of the people living on the domains were unbelievably, like unfathomably happy, like you've never seen a person be happy. And then some of the people were devastatingly sad, like you've never seen a person be sad. And there was a very large, you know, range of people's experiences. And what I gathered is that simply being on the land isn't an immediate key to happiness. You have to have something inside of you that drives you to create happiness outside of you. And there's a lot of people living on land who don't have that to create that around themselves. And there's lots of people living in the city who do, you know, and it's a really, really interesting thing. You know, the space of love, as Anastasia says, begins inside of us, in our thoughts, in our heart, in our dreams. You know, there's so much to do there, even before we have a piece of land, right? We go to a piece of land and we're only going to create what we are. And so, you know, everybody's on their own journey, and it's a magnificent thing. And Kai, I saw you put your hand up. I don't know if you still wanted to speak, but please feel free.
Yeah,
This is a
just
super interesting conversation. I'm
yeah,
enjoying this a
really.
lot.
I didn't expect it to be so deep. Like it's amazing. Just wanted to ask a question for to anyone, everyone. Um, like when you said you noticed like some people were completely devastated, unhappy, and some are really happy. And in your experience, what do you think makes the difference? Is it like the connection that you may have or not have with the people where you are, like the alignment of I
Yeah.
don't know frequency or values or what?
Yeah. There, at least from what I observed in that brief experience, I spent 10 days on that settlement. So I can't say that I'm like an expert by any means. There's other people who've been to a lot more settlements than I have. I've talked to a lot of people. But what I observed on that trip, um, there was a lot of things. Like some people made mistakes of moving too quickly to the land and trying too hard to transition to like a lifestyle that doesn't need technology, of like not having electricity, for example. And then the wife and the kids are not happy and comfortable, and now there's a lot of discord in the family, and now the wife leaves the husband, and now the husband is alone on the domain, and the wife and kids went back to the city because they tried to do things too hard and too fast. like that really happens. And then now you have sad husband alone with his dream trying to salvage what he had, you know, or there's other people who, let's see, like other things would be there are, you know, the types of people who are maybe a little bit of like gossip or bickering. And if a person is not nice and likable wherever they are now, they're not going to be nice and likable later on. You know what I mean? If they don't deal with that, you know, you can be a delightfully nice person living in the city and have no issues with that. But if someone has those tendencies and they move to the land, unless their heart is really in it and they're really trying to become better, it ain't just going to happen, you know, instantly for them. You know, and so people will little personal squabbles and this and that, and people are gossiping. The women on the settlement are saying other things, and you know, the guys are saying other things. It's not a gender specific thing, but you'd be funny, you know, it's the human stuff. It just doesn't magically disappear unless people are really working at it or they don't have those qualities in themselves, you know. And so it's fascinating how much it reflects like who we actually are, you know. So some of the difficulties for people were financial, some of the difficulties, and that's why I appreciate Anastasia saying it, like, don't rush, like don't put the pedal to the metal and do something crazy, because I saw firsthand people having really tough experiences because they did that, you know. And then the other people who were like, I mean, these people, it's hard to imagine like the love that some of those people are filled with. It's very unusual to see in our normal society. Like these people are overflowing with like energy and love, and their bodies like radiate this crazy kind of warmth, and they are just wildly happy. And it's like almost like I've never seen anything like that. That's amazing. And those people, I'm thinking of one man in particular. I could probably find some pictures and share some pictures if you guys want to see. I think I have some pictures of his domain. Um, One guy sticks out to me really clearly, but they just, yeah, he was a really harmonious guy. Wife is a really harmonious woman. They planned, they did things carefully, and um took their time, and everything just unfolded well. They had the right attitude, the right energy, and it just multiplied. When they got to the land, it just multiplied everything that they already were. And so if people get there and they're all disharmonious, it's just going to accelerate that too, for our own benefit. Ultimately, we always learn, you know, we're going to learn something either way. It's going to be good for us at the end. But that was my observation. I can get some pictures if you guys want to put them up on the screen real quick. I think I have pictures of that guy's domain.
Yeah, well, you get those pictures up. I'll just echo those comments, and you know, in my own experience, you know, for several years, you know, we were trying to find the perfect situation, you know, create a kin's domain, find like-minded people, or find a, you know, and create this, you know, kin's domain settlement, and do this. And, you know, things, you know, we made sure to, you know, be patient and follow our own speed, and that realization that everyone's on this, you know, different path. And yeah, it's remarkable how we are as humans in that regard. And yeah, just weren't finding, you know, the right fit time and time again. Something would come up, you know, and, you know, we were just listening to that and getting, you know, really impatient a little bit with ourselves, like, just like, what's going on? We really want to be doing this, you know, why isn't this happening for us? And yeah, it was a really interesting time. And, you know, at the end of the day, we were like, you know, you said that earlier, Gabriel, about, you know, just going out and getting your piece of land and attracting that sort of energy around you, if that's what you want, and, you know, if that's what you need. but you can't really, yeah, it's really hard to rely on. So, you know, we bought this, you know, it's a little over a hectare. It's, you know, just in like a regular neighborhood, you know, the one property next to us, you know, no one is undeveloped and no one lives on it, which is great. You know, our neighbors on the other side, you know, we don't, they live a totally different lifestyle and totally different yeah, they're, yeah, just in a different, they might as well be in a different universe with what they're doing. And you know, but they're there, we're doing our thing, and it's been so wonderful and happy, and for us, and we're living our full. These are great pictures, by the way. Yeah, we're just, you know, doing the best we were able to do with our, you know, with our abilities, and you know, just being real with ourselves. And yeah, when this property opened up, it was like, you know, there was this feeling of, yes, this is it. Even though it didn't fulfill, like, you know, a lot of these things. So it was like, oh, this is strange, but let's go for it. And yeah, we're just, you know, fulfilling those dreams, and yeah, just really enjoying it. So it really, there is no, I think the answer is there's like no single answer. You know, there's no one size fits all scenario. Everyone's, you know, got all these differences, and so yeah, you just have to trust what's best for you and follow that calling.
Yeah, I love it. I love everything you share, brother.
And forgive me, I just have to say this. There's no substitute for reading the books. There's just purely, absolutely no substitute for reading the books. So eventually, if you want to get out of them what is in them, which is, to me, you know, the best stuff on the planet, then, you know, you sit yourself down and read the books.
Yep. 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 Yeah, it's a great conversation. Very interesting topics here.
In terms of
Yes, I realized. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, in terms of like looking at land, there's a an element of astrology called astrocartography, where you can see where your energy lines, your astrological energy lines flow over different places across the entire world. And it'll show you where you have like very beneficial and non-beneficial energy lines flowing over different places across the world. And if you're looking for a place to land, you can see like, okay, is this a good place for me to be? How are my energies astrologically aligned with this particular place or land that I'm looking at? And you can get that information, which can be very helpful for determining like if you actually want to go there. Because I was listening to the conversation about you were saying that some people weren't happy where they were at, and they could just be in a location where energetically it's just not, you know, conducive for them to be there. Whereas the people that are very happy, they could be like sitting on a ley line, an astrological ley line that just makes them happy because they're just in the right place. And there's a website that you can go to. I'm going to put this in the chat here. It's called astro.com. You set up a little account, and you click on horoscopes, and you go down to where it says Astro Click Travel, and you put in your information, and it'll show you your astrological information, and it'll show you like a map of the entire world with all of your different energetic ley lines on it. And, you know, I got like a really beautiful ley line running through like North Carolina, in Georgia. You know, it's a Venus line, which would be like a very good place for me to set up like settlement for myself or with other people or whatever, because it's a Venus line, and Venus deals with, you know, like, you know, the hospitality of working with others, just like that. So that's a very good tool for looking at areas, or if there is an area that you're looking at, you can see what type of energies you're going to be interfacing with. Now, just in terms, in general terms, just connecting, I found for myself, just going out and connecting with the land, wherever I'm at right there. You know, I can go camping and hiking and stuff because I'm in Oregon, and Oregon has like such a beautiful environment. But wherever you go, you just connect to the land, connect to the spirit of the land. You know, I know Anastasia talks about, you know, how all the land is living. And, you know, one of the things that I did after reading her about, you know, her statement about, you know, just caressing the grass, letting you feel connection with the grass. Well, I was at this, let's see, on this lake, not a lake, but actually it was a river. And I started just caressing the river, and just as if I was caressing, like, you know, a person, you know, laying there. And the texture of the water changed. I mean, I could feel the presence of the water. It was like pushing back against my hand, as opposed to just dipping my hand in the water and splashing around. As I was caressing it, I could feel it pushing back. So I know that the work that I do with, you know, like the water spirits and the land spirits, you know, that the water is alive, it has intelligence, you can communicate with it. But I never communicated with it in that way. But I found that if you just touch a tree and you caress it and you start talking to the spirit of the tree, you'll start getting information. And you can even ask that tree, like, yeah, where's the best land for me? And that tree, because it's connected to all the other trees, through all the lands and all the land masses, you know, that Anastasia, she has talked about how all these things are interconnected. You know, it could find out for you. And if you just get quiet enough to listen to what the tree is going to tell you, then, you know, it might tell you where to go. It might tell you which is the best place. So between the astrocartography and just connecting to the land, you know, in a somatic way, you know, it would be a way of identifying where you might need to go, or where you might find the best place for you. Because I know that there are some places that if I went there, it wouldn't be good for me, because it got some Saturn lines and stuff like that. And it would be tough for me to make friends, tough for me to, you know, get settled down. So I would avoid those places, you know, when I look at my own astrocartography chart. I just happened to look up with a nice line out here in Oregon, you know, because I didn't know about that until after I moved here. And, you know, it was very beneficial for the things that I'm doing. And yeah, it was helpful for me. So those are just a couple of ideas to throw out there in terms of finding the land. Let the land come to you. Talk to the land, because the land, you can talk to the land here and be communicating with like the land in Ken in Russia.
Yeah, and that's a really great share, brother. I appreciate you sharing all that, and I'm interested in the in checking out the astrology stuff as well. And you know, like Anastasia says, I put the quote, it's the first little instruction she gives on choosing the land for your domain. It's the first thing she says about it. Choose for yourself a place of your own that you like the best of all the pleasing spaces on the earth, you know? And it's like one sentence, but that's a tall order. You know what I mean? Choose of all the pleasing spaces on the earth. And it's like, I think some people as well are just not honest with themselves about what they actually like. They think they should like this place, and they try to force themselves to like it. And they just don't really allow themselves to not like it, and to move to where they actually would. Like I really like a lot of places in California. I think they're stunningly gorgeous, but like, could I personally live there? I don't think so. Like, probably for a little bit, but like forever, probably not, you know. But here I am. I don't know where your lines are, Willix, over North Carolina, but I'd be interested if you got any Western North Carolina stuff going on, because that's where I'm at. You know, in Asheville, that would be cool. But and you know, speaking of the land search thing, I like to this has been my personal belief or kind of prayer to God. You know, my reasoning is that, well, God is omnipresent. He's present everywhere. He's manifested on every little piece of land in the entire universe, not even just the earth. And he's in my soul, he's in everyone's soul, and he knows me better than I know myself, and he knows every piece of land better than I could possibly fathom. And I say, well, God, you are everywhere, you know everything, you know me, you are the entire planet. You would know where would be the best place for me. Show me how to get there, help me find that place, and lead me in the right way to find that place, because man, that's just my personal thing. I don't want to make a mistake with it, and I just try to put it up in God's hands, because it's a big decision. I mean, it's an absolutely massive decision, right? And there's people who go on settlements in communities in Russia, and then they leave a settlement after, it could even be a few years, and these kinds of things do happen. And we gotta, well, I wouldn't say we gotta, but care should be exercised. And um you know that's just my personal little prayer about it. Rachel says in the chat, God will respond to that prayer with signs. I believe so. I got a lot of signs about where I'm at here, um in the Western North Carolina, like Blue Ridge, Asheville area. um and I feel like I'm at least in the right direction. I
Are
don't
you
feel
near
like
the
I'm
Black Mountains?
off the path too much. Black Mountain, yeah, Black Mountain is like 25 minutes from where I'm at, or something like that. It's not
Okay.
far.
Yeah, I was looking at some, my line runs really close to like that area there. A
It is
little,
really beautiful.
yeah.
I spoke at an event last year. I spoke at a Charles Eisenstein thing that was in Black Mountain, and it was really, really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I mean, if you like mountains and forest, and if you're in Oregon, that's probably the case. Black Mountain is stunning. Like, a lot of people go there just for the nature.
Okay, that's good to know. I saw a lot of pictures of like real estate
Yeah.
houses and stuff there. Yeah, it is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. Really, really nice. Little advertisement. Anybody ever want to come out North Carolina way? It's nice out here. I'm looking for neighbors in the future. All right, my friends. Does anybody want to chime in on that, or does anybody else have anything that's on their mind, on their heart, that they'd like to put forward to the group here? Super interesting stuff so far. I really love these calls for these kinds of discussions.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Shane, welcome.
You were saying, so you wanted God to tell you where to live? Or what? Just to give you a hint or something? I just reminded me of the part where Anastasia was asking for like a hint.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking that,
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking that you don't want to ask for too many. I mean, like, they warned about, asking for, when, yeah, like, I mean, what was the grandfather or whatever, was like warning Anastasia not to, he gave some sort of warning about that where she was asking for hints from God. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think it was Vladimir was asking for hints, I believe, from Anastasia, and grandfather was saying, you're not looking for things yourself. And him speaking as a priest, he was saying that the priests put out all these hints to humanity, and continuously giving people hints and making them not reliant. But I think what I was talking about is more like asking God, who is more than willing to guide and care and help direct all his children, and especially like him being omnipresent, and also him caring for all of us, would probably be happy to help me find a piece of land. Him understanding that it's a large and important decision, and him being my father who loves me would probably be more than happy to help me to find that. So I think it's a little bit of a different circumstance, where they were talking about like hints given out to humanity by kind of
Oh, I was talking
controlling
about
entities.
the part where I think it's like Anastasia is trying to find the right words for something, and then like all the like blue light starts coming from the tree or something, and she gets all like, and then the great grandfather comes up and they start talking and stuff. Do you remember that part? And I thought the warning.
Uh
Remember that?
yeah, I do remember what you're talking about. She her energy was weakened, then she starts standing up, the trees begin glowing blue and pointing their needles at her, and then
No,
she's like refreshed. Is
this is
that
a
it?
different. I think I remember that part, but this is a different
Uh-huh.
part. It's like earlier in the books where she's like trying to find the right words for something. Do you remember that? And
Yeah, there's probably a few parts, yeah.
and they were saying that like how can you talk to God that way or something, where she was like complaining or something.
Oh, yeah, she was stamping her feet and like kind of smacking her hand on the trunk of the cedar, I
Yeah,
believe, and she was trying to get an answer about a particular thing. I think that's like book 2, book 3, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she was trying to get an answer. I forget what the question was. Um, but yeah, she just had it up to here with God, and she was just she was just trying to get an answer, man. She was just, come on, answer me, God. Like, please, I need you to tell me this. And I think, I think that's okay. Sometimes you gotta really convince people to give you an answer.
Yeah, but then I said there was the grandfather kind of sort of gave her a warning, like I don't want to spoil stuff if
Yeah, I
people haven't
remember
read
what
it.
you're talking about. I'm gonna
Yeah,
try to find that in book 2. I
like
think I have it here.
he was like chasing her around, and then he acted injured, and she didn't realize fast enough that he was pretending to be injured, and then like before he left,
Right.
he
Yeah,
told her
this
to
is
be
the
careful.
chapter 7 in book 2. It's who's to blame. And she was trying to show or explain something or plead something. The resonant ring of the cedar increased in volume. The ray became brighter and thicker. Anastasia demanded sharply, "Answer me. Answer. Explain." She's shouting, "Give it to me. Give it to me." She said, shaking her head and even stamping her bare feet. And then I think isn't this where she breaks the yeah, this is where she I think breaks the tree. It aimed itself downward toward Anastasia and didn't touch her. The ray dissolved in the air. Um Vladimir realizes, okay, this is what it was, because now the energy from the ringing cedar is starting to come out. And I think he was telling her not to play with the tree because that's how her parents died. They died from the energy of the ringing cedar.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't think of it that way.
yeah, yeah, that's I was just rereading that. Kai, oh, Kai just left, but it was really nice to have her here. That was really nice. Yeah, so that was interesting. I didn't remember that part fully either myself. Book 2, chapter 7. Yeah, awesome, great. Okay, friends. How are we feeling? Does anybody else have anything they'd like to touch on while we're here? Or maybe we can start wrapping it up soon.
No, and that bit that we were talking about where Anastasia was kind of raising hell with God about, the issues that she was dealing with. One of the things that I came away from in reading that was that you don't have to yell at God. You don't have to scream. You just talk from your heart, like you know, what I've learned is that, God is always listening to a sincere heart. And someone can come with all kinds of other grandiose things and stuff like that. And another person can come with just like a couple of acorns, and that's all they got to give to God. But they're coming with a sincere heart. And God will see the offering of these acorns as more sincere than someone with a whole truckload of flowers and all the other hoopla and stuff like that. And so I think the key is just to come from sincere heart. And you don't have to yell at God because God can hear you no matter what. And that was one of the things that I was taking, when I saw that, I was thinking to myself, like, why is she yelling? It's like, she's so connected, she doesn't have to yell. She can just think the thought in her head in a state of serenity, and then you can hear the answer. That's the thing, like when you're arguing with somebody and they're both arguing at the top of their lungs or something like that, you can't hear what they're saying, even though they might be telling you the solution to the problem that they're arguing about. But when you just get quiet, you ask the question, I've always learned, ask the question and then get quiet, and then you'll hear, the voice, because God he doesn't yell at you. He always speaks in a quiet voice. That's why people have all these revelations when they're in the shower, when they're not, their mind is not occupied with, too much externalization and stuff like that. So just asking the question and getting quiet is what I do. And I get answers to questions about all kinds of stuff just by practicing that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like somebody else wanted to jump in real quick. I just want to give everybody a chance to speak.
I wanted to say that I'm really grateful to be here with you today. It was very rich and just feel lots of joy connecting and hearing all the sharings and see how differently we're all attracted to this sharing of Anastasia and how we implement it. It's first time for me to join like this gathering and see how individually we are navigating the messages that speak to us. So thank you.
Yeah, glad you joined us. Very glad that you're here. And yeah, it's a really interesting thing for me too. I think probably for everyone here to see how I find it so interesting and valuable. I love when all you guys speak because I get to listen and learn and expand my perspectives and and I find this to be so interesting. Like there's 10 million ways that we can all absorb all these things. And it's really nice to hear everybody else's perspective, I really enjoy this myself. Yeah, I'm excited to be continuing these and getting this series back up and running again. It's been a while. So it's really nice to start running these again. So maybe everybody who's here or see you next month or the month after that. And these will be continuing.
It was very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. I also notice, so many different types of people, yet each one has their own calling to the books, to the body of work. So there's that underlying current of, if not similarity, a network, a grid where everybody has that connection underneath it all. And so it's really interesting. I come on the calls, Gabriel, because I just like basking in that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
totally.
I'm gonna hop off, and I just wanted to come on and say goodnight to everybody. And yes, Willix, you raised some good points. Everybody did. Mark, Shane, everybody, Beta, everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tammy, it's nice to have you here again. I know you've joined us in the past, and yeah, I absolutely love it too. It's a really special and magical energy on these things, it's amazing how much power is behind the ideas in these books, and when we come together and share in our own way, like really, I'm blown away by it too. I've left a lot of these calls just overflowing like with energy and inspiration and stuff. I find that always to be the case when I talk with Ringing Cedars people, and that's a great sign. So really glad you're here and that you feel the same.
One of the things I get from it, you talked about a fellow who told if not you directly, he was talking about there's a large area with many, many kins domains, and each one of them has the unique signature of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like it's so familiar, it's tangible. I feel that in a
Yep.
celestial way because I have yet to experience it on an earthly plane, yet it's so familiar. So I leave the
Mhm.
calls with that part of it too.
Yeah.
The
I
familiar.
just pasted a link to that article that I mentioned, by the way. I realized I forgot to paste it earlier,
Okay.
but I translated that from Russian and edited it, and that's where the guy mentioned it. We're doing a Q&A event with him on the 29th or the 30th. It's part of our Russia America exchange series where we speak with successful Kins domain settlement founders or leaders and get to ask them questions and hear more about their lives. And it's a live Q&A thing. So there's a link to that at the bottom of that article. But yeah, that was a mind-blowing idea that you walk past the domains and you feel the individual person's energy. It's like he's been living on that settlement since 2003. And so that's only something with that much experience could ever say, you know.
Well, that reminds me of science fiction that I read long ago. Dragon worlds, elven worlds, rock crystal worlds, where
Yeah.
everybody's inner essence resonated through their parcel, through their area, their land. So I'm torn because it's time for me to hop off, and yet I want to ask you, wasn't there another fellow who showed a place in Russia where the orphans were getting their own kins domains? And wondering if it's the same fellow. I think you can kind of sense that I'm not really up to speed with all of this. I love it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. From the people that I know and that we've done events with or spoken with, I don't recall necessarily. I think maybe one of them, like Anastasia mentions in the books, you know, having, I think it's actually her grandfather says reserving one or two plots on a settlement for, you know, orphan children to have a piece of land. And I think maybe one of them mentioned that, but I can't quite remember. I don't know anyone explicitly off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've gone through too many trees of different branches that connect. I know that you work with some of the other areas that I, also lightly follow. You know, okay. And yet somewhere I know I saved some files. There was in Russia, an elderly gentleman. There were photos. There were photos of a Gabriel. And then they showed that if you let the children, and I would have thought it was you, but you're saying no. They said if you let the children do what they know how to do rather than formally educating them, there were schools and artwork and woodcraft that they had constructed inside their, I don't, is somebody
It
saying
might have been one of our Russia America exchange events. We did one about education with people who were taught by Mikhail Shchtenin. So the famous teacher that Anastasia mentions in book 3, we did an event with 2 schools of people who were like his people who were taught by him and his methods. And it may have been that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, I saw things where I felt like, does anybody remember the old, is it Live or is it Memorex? I was astonished at what they showed these pre-teenagers had created.
Yeah. Yeah. It might have been that. And it may have been as well, like I have photos of a Shchtenin in school, and they're mind-blowing if you've never seen them. If you haven't seen the photos of the actual building and the campus, it's unbelievable. I can actually, if you guys give me 1 second, I can get the link. I have a whole folder full of
That's what it
photos of the
is.
school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. I mean, designed,
Uh-huh.
built, and painted by children
That's
and,
yes, yes, yes.
young. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's
Mikhail
unbelievable.
or
Give me one
Mikhail.
second. Let me log
Yes,
in.
yes.
Yep. Shchtenin. Yeah, it's insane. It's cool that you bring that up because I don't really share that folder of images very often. But if you guys haven't seen it, if you've read book 3, so Rob, you're probably going to get there soon. They talk about a school in book 3 that's designed and built and run and all this by children in Russia. And Anastasia places a lot of praise on the founder of the school and all this, but it's a pretty unbelievable thing. So let me get the
This is the
photos real
one
quick and share
where
this with you guys.
I have no reason to not believe it, and yet it's almost surreal to believe.
Yeah. Here's the link to the folder. So if you guys want to
Okay.
see, I got a ton of photos in there, and I'll share some on the screen while we're talking about it real quick.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. What is this?
Yeah, it's mind blowing.
I don't know if I'm in the, yes, okay.
So I'll go here.
Okay.
You guys can see this. These are the class. I mean, the classrooms look like like a church. It's insane.
Right. That's what I
Like,
wanted to like monastery, no, not monastery. Yeah, monastery-ish.
it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's the one. Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah, this is all painted,
Okay,
designed, and built by children. I mean, it's
okay.
astounding.
I'm not seeing it. Are other people seeing it?
Are you guys seeing it?
Yes, now. Yes.
Okay, it says
Yes.
now you guys can see it.
Can you back up if you had other ones? The ones with the
Yeah, I
architecture.
had one previous.
Right, the
Look at
ones with
the
like the
phoenix on
architecture.
there.
Oh, we're not seeing it
Yeah.
yet. We might have a delay.
Oh, there's probably a pretty big delay. I'm on satellite internet, but you guys have the link to the folder and you can check out the photos there. It's pretty amazing.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm so
Yep.
touched.
Yeah, it's awesome that you brought that up.
I am so touched. You
Yeah,
know,
there's so many photos here. I would recommend you guys all check them out.
and this is all what the children did themselves.
Yep. Yeah, it's astounding. Honestly,
Oh
it's
my
like
goodness.
one of the most beautiful indoor buildings I've ever seen. It's just there's several buildings on the campus, and they are, I mean, astounding. Yeah.
I just kept feeling like, is it really real or is it like another dimension that I'm visiting?
Yeah,
Like time travel.
truly.
Yeah. And then
Imagine if our schools looked like that.
right, right, right. And these are a lot of these things are not unlike visions I've had or artwork that I've done.
Hmm.
Simple. I don't do stuff
Yeah,
in my own simplistic way. And there's the door.
right.
Oh, thank you for pulling
Yeah,
that.
these photos are unbelievable. I mean, I actually, funny story, I was just telling my teammate Ariane earlier. I had a call with her before this one, and I was telling her when I went to Russia in 2016, I was actually supposed to go here. I was gonna go. There's a bunch of dolmens actually close to the school, in the southern Krasnodar area, and the school is close to many dolmens within a few minutes drive. So I was supposed to go on a dolmen tour and to go to the school. But I ran out of money while I was in Russia and I couldn't go. I couldn't pay my tour guide. And so that was such a huge bummer. And Mikhail Shchtenin was still alive at that point. For those of you who don't know, he passed away a couple of years ago. The school was shut down on some fraudulent, trumped up charges. In an official capacity, the school was shut down after many, many years of successful operation. But what I've heard is that there was a bunch of rogue teachers and students of his who still occupy the premises and still keep things going. So, and he trained so many people that the fire of what he has done will continue to burn.
Mm.
And it seems like the building will still be used, but yeah, he passed away, I believe, in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, I was really, I must have been coming, to your calls. And that was kind of where I met.
Around that time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was so
Mm-hmm.
called to the sentiment of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you for pulling that up. Oh, there he is. That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Oh, that's right.
Yep,
There's
they're great.
something really strikes me about this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Phoenix painting is a it's a Russian, the Russian equivalent of a phoenix. Zhar Птица is the name, and it's like firebird, I believe is what that means. And it's a legend that is, I guess, similar to the phoenix, the idea of like a bird that resurrects, and the kind of idea of a phoenix that um most cultures have, but it's the Russian variant of it. And yeah, I guess the kids there, the kids painted all kinds of super beautiful religious and Russian mythological things. Like there's one here that I'm going to pull up. I know there's a pretty significant delay, but when you see it on the screen, they painted all kinds of like Slavic gods and myths and legends and things. And so they pulled a lot from traditional Russian like mythology for their art. And I mean, the fact that this was
Wow.
done by kids is still mind blowing, because it looks like you're looking at the greatest painters of all time, like their masterworks just on the walls here. It's pretty crazy.
Yes. Yeah, it's mind bending. Very
Yeah,
much.
when kids are given the freedom and encouragement to do these things, I mean, they are Shchtenin said, every child is a genius. Every child with an open heart is a genius, you know. Yeah, I
Ah,
love it. I'm very glad you brought that up. So nice to see these again.
yes. Yeah. Riveting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Didn't
Mm.
the school burn down and they rebuilt it? No, there was some stuff that they said that um the trumped up safety charges that I mentioned earlier had to do with like adherence to fire codes and stuff. There were, stuff with like fire doors and fire exits and just some absolute nonsense that they just trumped up um just to shut the school down. So yeah, it was something related to fire safety ordinances or whatever, and that's how they did it. Some absolute nonsense. Yeah. School didn't burn down though. Everything's still intact. But yeah, poor Shchtenin, he died pretty much shortly after the school was shut down. Um, so yeah,
Hmm. Well, good
yeah,
night, everybody. I was just putting it in the chat. Thank you again.
yeah, beautiful. Thanks for joining us, Tammy. And I think it's probably a good spot to wrap up here. It's been a really nice 2 hours with everybody. So good discussing everything with you all, and I appreciate you all taking the time to be here. Um, I look forward to seeing you all hopefully on any of the next calls. We got the Russia America exchange happening, I believe, on the 29th or 30th, with Alexei Garnayev from Kovcheg, wildly experienced settlement leader, very interesting and wise individual. So if you guys want to have a chance to ask him some questions, we'll probably be having him again as well. Got a really nice relationship with him so far, but yeah, it's been a pleasure. If anybody has anything you guys want to say before we hop off here, please feel free. But otherwise, I'm really grateful that you all came out.
Thanks, Gabriel. Appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate all of this. Thanks again.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll visit again. By the way, I'm from
Absolutely.
Manitoba, Canada. So,
Manitoba. Wonderful. Excellent.
okay. Okay, bye all.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Brian, Willix, Shane, Rob. Good to meet you finally. And Mark, always nice to see you, brother. Yeah, Rob, please feel free to follow up with me on, if you're on Telegram, that'd be great. I'm a lot quicker on Telegram. But yes, friends, you all have a great night and see you guys next month. Or if you want to join us for the event on the 29th or 30th, I'll see you then. Night, everybody.
Okay.